I've been an amateur bass player now for quite a few years, and whenever I used to get my basses professionally set up, I'd always be amazed at how easy it was to play them when I got them back. I've always wanted to learn how to do it for myself for quite a while, but I've never needed to because I always pay to get them set up. So recently I decided that I'd make the effort and try and learn how to set up a bass guitar properly, but rather than practice on my main bass guitar, I bought a couple of used ones off Gumtree. Now I'll show you both of them, but as you'll see in a moment, they haven't been really well looked after. I think they're playable. I think I can get them to a pretty good state, but they haven't been played in a while. The person I purchased them off said that they'd inherited them, so they are pretty dusty. And yeah, let's take a look. So this is the cheaper of the two bass guitars. According to the headstock, it is a Wesley. Now from what I could find online, these bass guitars were made in the Far East, China, and are very much on the affordable end of the price scale. But most people had good things to say about them, really. They said that they were fairly solid instruments and good for the money. And after having it in my lap for a little while, I sort of agree. It's got a pretty solid feeling to it. The fret ends aren't sharp or anything weird like that. As you can probably see from the back of the neck as well, it's in pretty good condition. The finish has held up relatively well. The actual body of the instrument as well has some marks on it. The actual fretboard as well is, from what I can tell, just a little bit dirty. And the tuners as well seem pretty decent quality. They're obviously unbranded, but they feel pretty solid. None of them are loose. As far as the electronics go, they haven't been tested at this point, and one of the pots is definitely loose, so that'll need tightening up. Switch works, at least it switches. I don't know if it works electronically. I'm guessing this is a passive bass as well. Yeah, I don't see a battery cover, although there is a cover to access the electronics on the back, and this knob as well is a little bit wonky, so that'll need to be adjusted. As you can probably see, it's fairly dusty, it's fairly grimy, so it'll need a really good deep clean. So the plan with these is really to give it a good clean, put some strings on it and set it up as best as I can. Whether I'll keep it or sell it, I don't really know at this point. This wouldn't be my first choice as far as body shape goes, but actually having it in my lap for a little while and feeling the neck, it sort of reminds me of my first bass, which was a Yamaha RBX. So let's get started. Some of these are a little bit loose. Even this one I can unscrew with my hand. But other than that, the tuners are in good condition. I'm going to take this cover off because I'm going to need access to the truss rod anyway, and it's going to make cleaning a bit easier. So I've just taken the truss rod cover off just to get to the dust a little bit more easily. These are, I mean, that one's especially loose, they'll need a bit of tightening, but other than that, they're in good condition, they're pretty shiny. I've got some of this D'Addario spray cleaner. It's probably a bit much. I know this stuff is pretty expensive. I think normal furniture polish works completely fine, but I'm going to use it anyway. I'm just giving it a couple of spritzes onto this cloth, and I'll give it a good wipe around. So I'm pretty happy with that. I don't know how well it comes up on camera, but there were quite a few spots, marks rather, that left out quite nicely, but weren't easy to see because of the dark finish. But it's looking a lot better. The bridge is looking a bit shinier, and yeah, so I'm going to get a wrench to tighten these screws and then we'll get started on the neck. Okay, so time to do the neck. Now, up close, it seems quite obvious that it hasn't been cleaned in a while. Let's see if I can give you a good a view of that. I don't know how well you can see it, but it looks like there's just sort of built up, I hate to say it, but built up skin, maybe, sweat. Typical things you'll find on a fretboard, but I'm going to give this a good clean with, well, some spray cleaner and just some old-fashioned elbow grease, and we'll see how far we get. Might need to change cloths at some point as well. So I just noticed as I was cleaning the dots here, let me see if I can give you a good view of these. You'll notice that this one is one that I've cleaned, and this one is one that I haven't cleaned yet. So at first I thought it was a pattern, but I have a feeling it's just absolutely disgusting. And yeah, it was just caked with I don't really want to know what. Probably just dead skin and sweat and dust, and hopefully no other bodily fluids. Well, that's fine, it's a bass guitar, it's to be expected. Alright, so the bass has been restrung. It's all been nicely cleaned up. As you can hopefully tell, it's nice and shiny, a lot less dust, and the fretboard is looking pretty nice as well. So it's had a bit of lemon oil and it's had it buffed out as well, so it's nice and shiny, and the frets are certainly a lot shinier than they were. Now the plan now is to start trying to set this up as best as possible. I don't know how well you can see the strings there and how far they are off the fretboard, but for me that is unplayable. So we'll straighten the neck out a bit and adjust the bridge if we need to, and yeah, let's see how we get on. My aim now is going to be to get the neck relatively straight with a little bit of relief, and I don't have a flat edge, unfortunately. But what I'm going to do is go by sight. So I'm going to look down the neck, which I have done already at the moment, and it's quite bowed. So I'm going to adjust it, see if I can get it a bit straighter, and then assess how close the strings are to the fretboard. Okay, so the plan now is to measure how high the strings are here at the 12th fret. And I'm going to measure from the top of the fret to below the string using this ruler, and get to around 2mm if I can. So the moment it is, well, at the moment it's quite a lot, is it? So almost 3mm, and at the G string, yeah, also a little bit above 3mm. So I'm going to start lowering it at the bridge. I'll start with the G string and we'll go from there. I have got some measurements written down. So the G string about 2mm here, and about 2.5 for the E string. So let's see how close we can get it. So I've managed to get the strings pretty low. I just had a quick play of it and it's fairly comfortable. I reckon that with the right skills and the right tools, the nut could be filed and the strings could get lower. That's just not something I want to do at the moment. In fact, I don't even have the right tools necessarily to do it. But it's pretty good. Anyway, it plays nicely. Sorry, I know you're looking at the back of the bass, but and then even at the 12th fret, there's no sort of ghastly rattle or anything like that. And again at the 5th fret, it's pretty good, it's pretty comfortable. Okay, so one thing I realised I forgot to show early on in the process was the back of the bass, which is, for most people, relatively uninteresting, but it's got a maple neck, and still not sure what the bodywood is, but the neck's in pretty good condition, and the finish is really nice and smooth. One thing as well is it's a quite a thin and comfortable neck. I was quite surprised actually at how easy it was to play, and you can see sort of towards the neck here how skinny it gets and how comfortable it is. I mean, there's no sharp edges there or anything, and you can see the machine head's a bit better there as well. They're quite clean. I haven't really had to do much there. The body has a few marks on it, especially towards these pointy bits, as you can see. Nothing that will affect playability, of course, but worth noting. Otherwise, the finish is doing pretty well. And yeah, obviously electronics compartment there. That's the jack and 2 strap buttons, strap pins, sorry, and doing all right. So yeah, we'll get it inside, get a few sound samples.